Moving on to our third topic, real quick, third round rules. You know what it is. Great take 800 points, good take 400, okay 200, and a bad take is nothing. Let's move on to I guess it was the first of the Monday night double dip last night. The Philadelphia Eagles knocked out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with an outstanding defensive performance, especially up front. Offensively, a little choppy. Jalen Hurts threw a couple of interceptions, but the running game was outstanding once again with DeAndre Swift. That offensive line looks like one of, if not the best in the National Football League. So I'll start with you this time, John. Were you impressed, or have you been impressed with Philadelphia's performances through 3 games and their 3-0 start?
Yeah, I would say I'm impressed because you got to think last year, I had the same take on Kansas City before they made some Super Bowl runs. When you're blowing teams out, it's an easy, it's an easy game. You know what I mean? You're blowing teams out, but the real games are when you face with adversity and close games. Those are games that you need to win, especially when it comes to the playoffs. You know what I mean? I know y'all Dallas fans know about that, but I would say, yeah, like I said, Philly ain't even hit the top level tier yet, and like I said, once they get it together, and I'm impressed by the wins, the close wins. Like I said, the offensive line is playing. Like I said, we all could have ran through them holes they did last night against Tampa, for sure. So, like I said, Philly is definitely in that top three, and they could be considered top one, the top dogs in the league, and they ain't even hit their stride yet. So, yeah, I got Philly.
That's interesting, and again, I think Philadelphia, at least in my view, is the best team in the NFL in terms of up front offensive and defensive lines. San Francisco's in that discussion as well. There's plenty of other teams you could throw in as well, but Philadelphia can get to the quarterback and they can stop the run. They can obviously create very large holes for guys like DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell as well in the backfield. To you, Barry, now, are you impressed with Philadelphia's performance through the first 3 games? And do you think they're at least in the discussion for best team in the NFL?
I will answer the second part first. That they're in the discussion of one of the best teams in the NFL, but I am not going to say that I'm impressed with them. I don't think that the competition that they've played is very stout. I mean, we're talking about the Patriots that they played, correct? Patriots are not a great football team. They have good defensive pieces. They have a legendary Hall of Fame coach, but they're not necessarily a world beater when it comes to football right now. The Vikings are a pretty decent team, but the Vikings are winless right now. They've been in some shootouts, but they have some deficiencies on their end of the football, correct? And now you're talking about the Tampa Bay Bucks, who've played inspired football for the first 3 weeks of the season, but they're also not a very good team if you're going to talk about the totality of what they face. So we're talking about a Philadelphia Eagles team that pretty had a cheese schedule last year. They ran through that, and the teams, obviously you got to play the teams on your schedule, but they haven't really played a holy crap. Look at this team yet. So before I see that, I'm going to hold off my opinion about them being or being impressed with them or them being one of the top tier, upper tier teams in the NFL. Jalen Hurts tends to make a lot of mistakes when there's pressure on him. He tends to make some bonehead decisions as well, but they have a very good, collection of talent. DeAndre Swift has always been a very talented running back, right? But injuries have kind of plagued his career. That's why Detroit let him go. So, it's not talent that they have a deficiency at. It's just about, the level of competition. They haven't really impressed me, and I want to see how they look against the San Franciscos and the other teams. So I would say that I'm not really that impressed.
Well, listen, it's absolutely a fair take, and obviously we'll get to your point total later. But you mentioned the first few games of the season. They got Washington, then the Rams, the Jets. Here, listen to the schedule starting on October 22nd. Listen to their schedule that starting in that stretch. They got the Dolphins. They've got at Washington, Dallas, at Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas, Seattle.
That's a tough stretch.
That is as brutal of a stretch as there is in the NFL. So listen, that middle part of their schedule will really kind of define their season in terms of what they can be. Obviously, we assume health. Finally, to you, Mike Guido, have you been impressed with the 3-0 start that the Philadelphia Eagles have put together?
I'll say yes, but not for a reason that you might think. Because Jalen Hurts has not been a world beater since the start of this season. 3 picks, 3 touchdowns. He's been a fairly average quarterback since the start of this season. And this is an Eagles team that I think at the very most, and maybe the most in the NFL right now, relies on how they run the football. If you look at what they've done the last 2 weeks, they've run the ball for over 200 yards the last 2 weeks. They've done a really great job at controlling time of possession, controlling the pace of the game, and not forcing Jalen Hurts to do too much, because Barry's right. He has been a little bit mistake prone, especially when he's faced a lot of pressure. So as far as that's concerned, I think I'm impressed with the Eagles because this is a team that I don't think has put it all together yet on either side of the football, right? They almost gave away the game against New England. They almost gave away a game against Minnesota. And listen, this is a team that I think can take advantage of a lot of bad teams, kind of like Dallas, right? They're going to take advantage of a lot of bad teams. But this is the difference between a team like Philly and a team like Dallas and a team like the Chargers and some of these other guys, is that the Eagles know how to win ugly. This is the thing that I think impresses me about them, is that even when things don't go 100% perfect with them, they give up bad plays on defense. The Jalen Hurts isn't completing a good percentage of his throws. They can't really move the football through the air. They're still finding ways to win football games and making big plays. So no, as far as they've looked, I would say that a team like Dallas, San Francisco, Miami, Kansas City, any of these other teams have looked more impressive as far as the eye test is concerned. But what impresses me about the Eagles is that even when things aren't going 100% perfect, they're finding ways to win games ugly. And I agree with you. I think when we get later on in the season and they hit that tough stretch, we'll actually find out what they're made of. But as of right now, I'm impressed by how they're able to win games even when they don't look 100%.
And they have multiple ways to beat you. And again, I think it has a lot to do with what they have up front on the offensive and defensive line. So I think it's that's a great point by you. Let's see. Let's get to our point totals. I will start with there we go. John Rivera, solid take, good take. Again, I think Philadelphia is obviously in a good spot where obviously they can beat you up front. The running game is outstanding. And again, Tampa Bay isn't. I don't think we exactly see Tampa Bay doing what they did 3 years ago, winning the Super Bowl. But listen, solid take by you. To Barry Grant Jr. I'm going to give you once again another great take. Like you said, the early part of the schedule kind of reminds you a little bit of last year, like you said. Took advantage of a bad schedule, cheese quarterbacks a lot of last year, and the good quarterbacks they faced, they got torched by. Well, now they're facing, now they look good against Baker, obviously, but you had a backup quarterback who he really is a backup. It just people catch up to me on Mac Jones. But Mac Jones, looked like a competent player against Philadelphia. Okay, Kirk Cousins looked like a Pro Bowler, and he has been in the past. But I'm talking about like top 5 level quarterback against Philadelphia a week ago. So again, it's going to be that middle part of the schedule that's going to be key for them in terms of whether or not they can make another run. Mike Guido's in first place. I'm going to give him another great take. Listen, I think with you talk about them having multiple ways to beat you. They're very physical. Jalen Hurts has kind of been up and down, but again, winning ugly football. We forget sometimes that, and maybe this was a bad question to ask just in this regard, that the NFL is not the AP. It's not the we come out with the new rankings list every week where it's you can win football games, you move on to the next week, you address your issues,
right,
when you can. 2 hours